Okay, good afternoon, everyone. This is Alex Villarreal. I am the chair of sleep medicine at Gunderson Health System in La Crosse, and I see a lot of familiar faces. Hello to everyone. And this will be a little bit different from other talks. It will not just be me lecturing about something, but I want this to be more of a conversation, something that's more interactive, something that includes all of you.
I want to hear what you got to say.
So for those who feel like taking a nap, perhaps stay more awake, okay? And again, it's not the food or my boring voice, but it's the circadian rhythm, correct? So today we will talk about the evolution of sleep, and specifically here in Wisconsin. So I thought, well, I can think of someone very special who can tell us more about this history. So this will be more of a dialogue. About the objectives here, again, I want to make sure at the end of this that all of you will have an understanding of how things evolved in Wisconsin. Be able to understand the current landscape of the profession of a sleep technologist. And also have an evaluation of what the future might bring, I said, to sleep techs. So for that, I said, I would like to ask here the question here, said, when did the sleep technology start? Oh, thank you. So when did the sleep technology start? Okay. So we could say that it started with the dawn of humanity. As cave people had sleep problems, right? And they had some witch doctors that helped them with that. We could say that in ancient Egypt, they used opium and mandrake to treat their sleep problems. So maybe the sleep techs started. We talked about what happened in the 20s and research in the 30s, studying into brain waves and sleep. And then there's in the 60s and the 70s, we made things more systematic on the monitoring of sleep, right? And then in 1975, the American Sleep Disorders Association started. It became the AASM. And then that's where I said it was all one profession, right? I mean, sleep techs, like that. And then, which was the first sleep center in becoming accredited in Wisconsin? It was called the Wisconsin Sleep Center, which currently is Gunderson in La Crosse in 1984. Yeah.
Very cool.
Exactly. Yes, folks. Yeah. And but again, a lot of other things have happened. So I think let's just talk here to our experts. So who's our guest speaker? Well, of course, here we have Marla. So what can I say? She is our eternal Wisconsin Sleep Society president. Sleep technologist for 36 years. Not only that, but also certified in respiratory therapy, polysomnography, and sleep health. She is an educator at the Fox Valley Technical College, so teaches future generations of ENDT specialists and also who will be coming to sleep. And she also acts as a horror actress. So, ooh.
It's for real. I usually play mean people, though, not scary people.
Yeah, you can look her up in IMDb, right? So
Yep,
see.
for sure.
Okay, so let's start here about.
That is an old photo. Notice the paper polygraphs. I know some faces here will remember that.
So the question here, how has sleep technology evolved over the years? But first, how did you get into doing sleep?
Well, I worked in the respiratory care department at St. Vincent's in Green Bay, and I had the opportunity to go work in the sleep lab. It had started in 1984. St. Vincent's had started a sleep center, and it was one tech, one room. The patient was in the room with the tech. The patient couldn't fall asleep, and the tech couldn't stay awake. But then they had got kind of more the setup we have now, where there was a control room and 2 bedrooms, and they were looking for respiratory therapists to cross-train to work into that. And what attracted me was It was very, no weekends, no holidays, and we're used to respiratory care, working every other holiday. I thought, hey, this sounds pretty nice, the schedule-wise, and I'll give it a try. And once I started, I was just captivated by the field of sleep medicine, just learning about something completely new. And I had no idea what all happened when you were sleeping, and that we went into different stages, and these stages took place in cycles and all that, and you need all that in order to feel good and be well rested. I also enjoyed public speaking, and this was a perfect thing to speak about. I always say it's easy to talk if you know what you're talking about. So once I was constantly learning about sleep medicine, and it gave me an opportunity to educate other people about it. But I thought it was so cool. We had these big machines to use with pens and ink, and there were a lot of mechanics to it. And, you had to, now your computer does a lot of that on its own, but the digital systems. But, I loved learning about it. And all the researchers it was a new field, so they were very approachable and around. When we went to the car, they were still alive, not like Egan in respiratory care, people that were long gone when we learned about it, right? But so that's how I got into it, and once I got into it, yes, there's some night work, but it was a little better schedule, and the workload was controlled. Instead of in respiratory care, you could have a change from the time you started your shift to the end of your shift, from taking care of 2 patients to 35 patients. There was no limit. With sleep, I knew I was going to have 2 patients. I could have 2 tough patients, but I knew I was only going to have 2. It was more predictable. So that's, I guess, what I enjoyed about it. But overall, I really enjoyed learning something new. And we were coming in on the ground floor, making sure it was done according to the standards.
Now, Marla, I've been told, is it by someone who's been in the field, also worked with ink and paper, that some of them you could score patients based on the sound of the. So for those who remember those days, please raise your hand, and if you're online, send a thumbs up emoji. Wow, here we have some hands raised. Excellent. Okay.
Anybody, online, if you worked with paper analog machines to do sleep studies, send a thumbs up emoji so we can see all of you out there too.
Awesome. Okay.
And that's true. The pens made noise, like a lie detector polygraph, same thing, and it would make noise, and then when they would get into REM, everything would quiet down, and you could start telling something was changing. If the patient would wake up and turn to them sides, the pens would, so you could tell what was happening by the sound, and that went away when we moved to digital. And a lot of techs, more than me, missed paper because of that. It was such a nice clean tracing, and that there was the sound gave you hints what was happening. Maybe they were having a seizure. Maybe I've already heard the pens go flick, 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 and they had like a short run of VTAC or something, But personally, I embraced the digital technology because you could manipulate the data in a way you never could with paper. Once you recorded it at certain settings on the paper, that's what it was when you had to score it also. You didn't get to go back, and so with computer, we can change the re-reference and change the settings and change things to look different so that it makes it easier for us to score. So I like that. And also, you did your recording, 1,000 pages of paper, and then you had to go back and page through these big boxes of paper and lug these big boxes of paper back and forth, and then you would assign a sleep stage to each page, and on this log sheet, then you would have to count up exactly how many epochs of stage 1 were there, how many epochs of N2, how many of, and we scored N3 and N4 a little bit differently. But you counted those all up and then used a calculation to figure out how many minutes of sleep in each stage. Now your computer does all that, your report template. But I think it was good because when you worked, correct me if I'm wrong, those of you out there, but when you did it that way, you knew how those numbers were arrived at, right? So if there's something not calculating correctly on your report, you know, this doesn't look right here, because you know we're now, I don't think always see that techs know how the sleep efficiency is calculated or what the normal amounts are of those states. And I think we had a better handle, or I feel like maybe because we had to, that was part of it, was counting up all those single epochs and making those calculations, and you got a better sense of, I feel anyway, looking at the report and knowing what it. I mentioned a short time ago to some techs about, well, when this happens, you have to re-reference, and they're like, re-reference? What are you talking about? I was like, what's going on here? But I think we referenced more, right, when we used paper, because you know you saw it as it was recorded and how you had it set. That's what you had.
So Marla, another important question. So for those again who've been doing this for 10 years plus, you might remember that patients are much easier. Okay, you had your middle-aged, overweight person who snored, came back for a diagnostic test, and perhaps might come back for a titration study. Whereas now is that all these easy patients have a home sleep apnea test. So then what are you left with at night? You have kids, or people are pretty elderly and sick.
People coming out of ICU after respiratory failure.
You got it. Post-discharge patients. So tell me about that. How do you feel that has affected the stress levels and safety and quality of the work that you do?
I think it is a little more of it is a harder job for the night tech there with those patients at night than it used to be, because you're left with the kids. And you might say, I love kids. Well, they're not always the most fun to do sleep studies on, am I right? Compare what age they are. And so you're left with the kids, which requires a different set of scoring rules. So you got to constantly be aware of that. Or you're left with the more complex titrations, or the patients who are struggling and getting them to be compliant and that sort of thing. So I do think it is. And you kind of got one shot at it. They're there, you want to do the right thing. I think every sleep tech out there wants to do a good test and wants to do, but it's hard when it's the time is going on. Sometimes you're doubting yourself, am I right? Or does somebody else want to speak to? I think if you're right, you're doubting yourself, like, is this what I'm supposed to be doing? Do I turn this up now? Do I, and we do the best we can with the guidelines we have, but it is hard.
And on a positive note, would you say that perhaps this has also allowed some people to have a more clinical role where they can interact with people during the day and bring more people to the doors, because there's so many people who are just so afraid to having a test that now, well, at least there's an option to be tested. What are your thoughts about that?
The home sleep testing? Yeah, I do think, when it first came on, if anybody who's been in sleep a long time probably had the same feelings, like, oh my God, this is going to close our doors. It really does not. It opens up access because, like you said, the easy patients, the clear, straightforward OSA patients are the ones that the home sleep testing is indicated for.
Right.
And that is by far the most patients that we see in the sleep lab, right? Is the OSA, straightforward OSA patients. So it really makes sense because it opens up access. speeds up the process as we've found out after COVID, there's like a delay in them getting their treatment. So sometimes waiting to get in for an in-lab study even delayed it further. It's not, I think as long as the home study is used as it was intended, it's a good thing because it improves access. It makes people come who maybe would not have pursued having a sleep study. And then if they're very severe, many times they end up coming into the lab for a titration. So in some cases, it's increased the volume in the lab.
So Marla, you are an educator, someone who trains is at Future Sleep Professionals. What are your thoughts about how the profession has evolved and the training has evolved from when you first begun to what it is now?
Well, when I first began, my leader, who was also a leader in respiratory care, showed me how to apply the electrodes, how to do the scoring, what to look for, and we relied on conferences like this, quite frankly, to get our information, and the AAST putting out education. That's how we got, and we were constantly learning and looking at what was evolving. Now, what I've seen over time is it's harder for techs to get to that training. Like workplaces aren't supporting it as much, so they're not getting this. And that was always kind of my dream, was to have standardized training for sleep techs, because some sleep labs do a very good job having experienced techs train respiratory therapists or EEG techs or whoever, to do it. And we have A-STEP now from the AASM, which many job descriptions, if you are not an RPSGT, you have to take A-STEP to get hired into a sleep lab, which is something, it's better than nothing, but it would be, this is a lot, and this is important work that we do. It's a lot of responsibility that sleep techs are faced with at night. And this makes a tremendous difference in the patient's life. Getting the treatment right, getting them to wear it, getting them comfortable with it. It's important. I always say it's important work that we do, and our patients deserve no less than to give 100%. So we have to have sleep tech people out there doing training, and I always call it the ever reliable RPSGT Facebook group. Anybody on it in here? Yeah, it's good because it's a community that you can get to. You can get a pulse on what's happening other places. But some of the things I would read on there, I would think, these people have no business working and doing sleep studies. Am I right? But I am not blaming any tech that is responding to that. Or it's not the tech's fault. It's the organization's fault, hiring people and throwing them in without the adequate skills and training. So that's what we need, in my opinion, is we need standardized training for sleep techs. It's just, hey, a lot of us are old and are on our way out. We need the young people coming in who are trained and as passionate about it as we are. And if we want to grow the field, we need more sleep techs. And, there isn't a good, some places get very good training, some places it's not so good. They show them how, they show them how to stick the electrodes on and hope for the best. That's not going to fly, not under my watch, because our patients deserve no less. So it would be great, and I don't know what suggestions anybody has, but...
Yeah, I would agree with you, and that's why hopefully we can partner here in the near future can help us train some extra techs. But
we should.
Perhaps we'll talk about that during our next Wisconsin Sleep Society and update on how that went.
And the CCHSH credential, I think that's awesome, and a lot of people say, well, it doesn't really do anything for us. it's more education, and it helps us to educate our patients better and to, yes.
I didn't want you to stop.
Oh,
No, I just wanted to add that the CCSH, they have RPM and RTM codes that came out in 2023 that we're seeing people bill for now.
So they're saying that the CCSH has some RPM codes that came in 2023 that allow them to bill. Yeah, thank you. So again, so how would you describe here the current state of sleep technology?
well, I think that it varies from sleep lab to sleep lab. And would that be a fair statement?
I think so. The one thing too that I see as a concern is I don't see as much renovation. I see very few new young people getting into the field.
I agree.
Okay, so
We need to talk it up to, what about, through COVID, I know a lot of respiratory therapists got extremely burnt out on doing respiratory care. And those would be perfect people to say, hey, this is something you can use your respiratory skills. It's heavy respiratory with the CPAP and what we do.
but
That
for-
would be one place to look, Like I said, I do teach polysomnography as part of the neurodiagnostics program at Fox Valley. But they're all going to school to be an EEG tech. It seems like I don't get too many. There's been a few that have taken jobs in sleep labs, but mostly they want to be an EEG tech. That's what they're going to school for. But I think we need some standardized training or get it automatic into the neurodiagnostic and the respiratory care programs as part of their curriculum. It's better than,
yeah, so hopefully that we can push that as part of our agenda as a
Yes.
society and help advance the field as it in the Midwest here, starting with our cheesehead friends, right? But I see there's some evolution, so I think sure there's some challenges for sure. I mean, I see everyone is working much harder. Like, conditions are more difficult, patients are tougher, but at the same time, I think there's many more clinical opportunities that were not available many years ago. I still feel that one of the beauties of our field is that we can make a difference, and you can see it, right? When I see someone with COPD, hopefully they'll say, in the hospital too often you see them deteriorate slowly, whereas if you see someone with sleep apnea, insomnia, restless legs, after treatment, narcolepsy, you treat them, they're a completely new person, in a month or two. So that's beautiful. You can't deny them, okay? Or how many people have told you, thank you, this is the best night and sleep I've ever had in such a long time. So sure, there are some annoying people, yes, but I think most of them would be really, really pleased that you helped them there. So that's a beautiful professional thing.
I recently retired from St. Vincent, and before I retired, because there was such a long wait for getting CPAP, I had gone to help somebody I knew who had been ordered on, a young person. He was 35, he had been ordered on CPAP, but just to explain the mask and why you should wear it and get a good fit and get some good place to start, little tips. And when he saw I was retiring, he commented, "The woman that saved my life." I'm like, what? I saved somebody. But it made such a difference in his day-to-day, a 35-year-old, in his day-to-day quality of life and how he felt. And I felt like I did nothing but what I did every day, show somebody how to use it, and so we can make a difference. We can make a difference in getting people, especially in that compliance piece. That's another piece. The home care companies, they're as strapped for manpower, I think, as
Correct.
we are in labs. So then different pieces of the puzzle are falling away. And sometimes I say, the sleep, I don't want it to turn into the wild, wild west. It's like we got to do what the standards say, and we have to maintain and uphold the standards and do it right for our patients, because our patients deserve no less. And if we have some standardized training for techs and everybody sticks to the standards, and the providers are, sometimes the patients don't want that. Is that right? You have patients that come to you and say, well, I don't want to do that. I don't want to wear that. I don't want to. You can't just say, well, okay, then we'll do what you want to.
Yeah, so again, I think we also had some conversations with some people around here, and I think there's that fine balance. So we have to apply best practices to help most people, but what might be the best treatment for most might not be something that can be applied to everyone. So we also have to be flexible enough to, work with each person, give them some individualized therapy, and having solutions, for example, like Inspire or oral appliances, although they might not work as well as the CPAP, they're much, much better than not doing anything. So there's some beautiful things that we can do for them. And also, this is a good segue to talk about how technology is affecting our sleep, right? I mean, now there's a lot more, since the pandemic, telemedicine visits. We have, as I said, CPAPs that have modems, almost like magic. You can see what's going on, tell them you're not using your treatment. You can also, you have, as I said, one of our sponsors here too. I mean, they've been helping with using artificial intelligence and machine learning to do some scoring, getting every time, as I said, more accurate. There's people now, as I said, who have smart devices, fitness trackers. I've had a lot of people come to me, oh, my device tells me I have low levels of oxygen, I should probably seek some attention. And even recently, I said one of the smartwatches, Galaxy Samsung Watch, was FDA approved for the diagnosis of sleep apnea. So I think this is, the way I see this, is it could be opening new doors and just having sleep more top of mind so more people can come in and talk to us. But what are your thoughts about this, Marla? I mean, how do you think, digital health, telemedicine, and technology is influencing care?
I think it's a good thing. I think it's, especially since COVID hit, it seems like from a patient perspective, they're looking for things that are more convenient, that are more, and I think it's a good thing because it's only going to open up more access for more patients to get in and be tested and get the treatment they need and be up to speed with the guidelines that their insurance will cover the treatment for them. And, our patients are a little bit more savvy, like he said, when they come in with their Apple Watch or this or that, and they said, it says I'm got this many hours of deep sleep, or, we have to be ready to have those conversations also with our patients.
Correct.
But I don't think it's a bad thing by all means. I think it only makes it more available because sleep doctors also are not a dime a dozen, and they can't be everywhere.
Right, yeah. It's also a pretty good segue, I said, for the next talk. But before that, I want to ask here, for all of those who are sleep technologists, please raise your hand. And, whoa, okay. And for those who are in the online audience, again, please send 2 thumbs up emojis. So first of all, a round of applause for all of you. Thank you for everything that you do.
This is important work that you do. Don't let anybody tell you.
Really awesome. So knowing that we have here so many sleep techs, Marla, what type of advice would you give your colleagues here in the audience?
I think, never stop learning. Keep exploring and keeping a pulse on what's happening in the industry, what other places are doing. Because time changes, the industry changes. Am I right?
Absolutely.
And it's just like home studies. Everybody was scared at first. This is going to close down all the sleep labs. It's coming, no matter whether you want it or not. And what we found was it was actually a good thing because it streamlined treatment and improved access to sleep centers. So don't ever stop learning, and be an advocate for standardized training for sleep techs. So we have people doing this job and this important work that we do that are adequately trained to do so. Because like I said, when I hear people say, why do we even bother with CALs, or why do we measure the, it's not the tech's fault. They don't know. You don't know what you don't know. So, we need to make sure people are adequately trained, that they understand, that we give them fun opportunities for education so that they do keep learning and keep exploring what is current and best for our patients. I said when that's a big thing that we do with the Wisconsin Sleep Society is have this conference. And I said, you got to have good food and good prizes, and people will come to the conference. But we got to figure out ways to get those people in these seats, and now that's why we're offering it virtually too. I would say, yes, it's a very good job. It's a very unique job. There is some night work. Even, I would think, even if you're a day tech, there's probably going to be times that you'll have to fill in on nights, and but it's a very rewarding. We're helping people. We're improving the quality of life, and these people with respiratory failure, which I felt we were seeing more frequently after COVID, but maybe there's just better awareness that those patients are out there and they're getting sent to sleep labs. This is important. This is keeping them alive. Even the people with severe sleep apnea, and you see what it's doing to their heart and different things. This is important work that we do. So embrace it. You keep learning as much as you can and mentoring the techs that you work with and showing them things, because like I said, you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah. So now is it to also keep things on time? I will just ask for one question from the audience, but I'd like this to be a person who hasn't asked a question yet. So, okay, I see a hand raised back there. Here, I'm going to run back and get her. So someone is coming with a microphone here, and Marla will...
I'm old, I can't run very good. And the other thing I wanted to mention was sometimes patients with physical limitations and they can't get into the sleep study for a sleep, we got to figure out ways to address those patients too, because I've already had patients like that who with physical limitations, and they came from a different area of Wisconsin or a different state, and they said, I was told there was no way they could do a sleep study on me. Well, you're exactly the kind of people that have to have one. So we have work to do there, making sure sleep medicine is available to everybody in the best capacity we can give.
Okay. Jenna.
Yeah, I was just curious. We're seeing a proliferation of EEG or electroneurodiagnostic companies that have virtual components to their work, like remote monitoring systems. That gives a lot of EEG techs an opportunity to work off-site virtually from home in a role that may feel more like one of the fabled unicorn jobs. And so do we see a future where we're either providing patient education virtually, where we're doing remote monitoring virtually, other things that would allow sleep technologists to move into that virtual space? As a hiring manager, that's a really big focus of a lot of applicants anymore, and a huge job satisfier. So I was curious if facilities and labs and techs and places are adopting that.
Yeah, that is an excellent question for those who are asking about the role of a hybrid job and if that would move forward. So for those who want to see what might be possible, now here is with a different payment model, I must say, for the asterisk. Look no further from the Knox A1 system. It's a full PSG that can be applied at home, and the person can go home with all of the electrodes, has everything, and it can run, and perhaps you would be able to monitor that carefully. Now, the problem here is with the way we would build that, since it would be a type 2 PSG, billing, reimbursement would be just slightly higher than a type 3 test. So if you're going to buy a very, very expensive equipment that's as much as that might tie a tech into looking at all those things, then it'll be very hard to justify that here in the U.S., at least with the current payment system, with the current reimbursement system. 2, how many of you have handed out type 3 home tests? Raise your hands. Okay, so a lot of people have given home tests. And then how many times have you received equipment with things that have been misplaced, where people didn't know how to put on, like even the pulse ox? Yes, exactly. How many people have had someone who's failed their pulse ox, didn't put it well in their finger? Okay, yes. So if you have to have all that stuff placed on you, then, and there's no one there to attend it and keep it, what do you think will be the quality of that test? Probably won't be the best. So again, there's also some other things too. So I think technology is improving, that we might have different ways of monitoring things and trying to find that balance between quality and accessibility. And then the other thing too is reimbursement, because if you have to pay all the money that would, like a NOx A1 system would cost, and get reimbursed the same as a type 3 test, that wouldn't fly. From a business point of view, you wouldn't be able to keep that. So that was an awesome segue. So please, a round of applause for Marla. Thank you very much. And for those who want to talk to her.
Villarreal. And a round of applause for Alex, too. We need excellent doctors and providers